Thank you for joining me. Obviously, it's been a very busy week for you guys. The Senate just passed the spending bill. It's going to the House any minute now, actually, to end the government shutdown. You passed it 60-40 yesterday. How's the Republican camp feeling?
We feel good, optimistic. This government shutdown's really been a disgrace. It's 45 days. It's been a horrible burden on the American people. Federal workers, 100,000 Pennsylvanians working the federal government haven't been paid. The SNAP benefits, 2 million Pennsylvanians receive SNAP. The airports have been disrupted, air traffic controllers. This has really been a mistake and a really bad choice by the Democrats to shut down the government. But it looks like we may have an end in sight here. The Senate voted to end the shutdown the night before last. The House is going to vote today. If they pass that, then the government will be up and running. 3 big appropriations bills have been passed. The government will have some time to finish the final negotiations between now and January. We'll get through the holidays. We should have never gone down this path. It was a mistake. I voted to open the government 15 times. My fellow senator, Senator Fetterman, voted 15 times to open the government. I've also voted for legislation to never let this happen again. This was not smart. This was a bad idea, but hopefully we can get past it now.
Yeah, and as you kind of mentioned that these appropriations, a lot of these go until next September, right? Military spending, et cetera. But most of the government is only funded through the end of January. I mean, do you expect this kind of political stalemate that we had for the last month and a half after January?
I don't think so. I hope so. The interesting thing about it, what Republicans had asked for was a continuing resolution, clean, to continue to fund the government at the current level while we finished the negotiations on appropriations. Those negotiations on normal appropriations were going well. Bipartisan support for VA benefits, for Department of Agriculture. There's a number of other appropriations bills. There looks to be like the government, the Congress is actually working reasonably well in the Senate on these appropriations bills. So I'm hopeful this will give us the window to pass those appropriation bills in normal order and get on with the business. The most basic responsibility of the Congress is to keep the government open. So we failed the American people for 45 days. I hope we won't have to disappoint them again.
Yeah, and the Senate was only able to pass that vote, 60-40, as I said, with the help of 7 Democrats, 1 independent who caucuses with Democrats, who broke ranks to vote with all Republicans except 1. Why do you think they voted yes after 40-some days?
Well, I think it was a mistake. This was Chuck Schumer driving the Democrats into a cul-de-sac. In the military, we learned don't drive into cul-de-sacs because you get stuck, and they couldn't find a way out. It was bad politics for them to approve the government to open the government because the radical part of the Democratic Party wanted to sort of resist President Trump and what Republicans were doing. But as the pain started to grow, I think those Democrats really showed a lot of courage and said, listen, this doesn't make sense. Let's open up the government. The person that's really been most courageous on this is Senator Fetterman, my fellow Pennsylvania senator, and he's been a solid vote 15 times to keep the government open. And I told him, and I said publicly, if roles were reversed and the Democrats were in the majority and in the White House, I would vote the same way he's voting, which is to keep the government open. I don't think it ever makes sense to hold the government hostage to political games and negotiations.
Yeah, and speaking of Senator Fetterman, he's one of, as I said, the 8 senators that voted with the Republicans to fund this bill. And the backlash against these 8 senators has been immense. I mean, what do you make of that? And what do you make of the many people that are calling for Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to resign, saying that he doesn't have control over this party?
Well, I think it's really reflective of a battle within the Democratic Party. You have Democrats that are more moderate and trying to get things done, and then you have a really extreme left that's really best represented by what just happened in New York City. Mamdani, the new mayor, very extreme left, an explicit socialist, wants to take grocery stores and put them under public control, wants to make buses free, wants to do all sorts of things that are socialist policies. Socialism's been tried again and again. It's in Europe and elsewhere, it's found itself in the dustbin of history. Very anti-Semitic, very explicitly tied to some of the radical infantidum movement and so forth. So we've got a real fight within the Democratic Party between that radical left and the more moderates, and that's what's taking place. I think that's bad, really bad for America, because I think a healthy Democratic Party, even as a Republican, I say that we need a good counterpoint. We need to be able to debate good conservative ideas on where we should take the country, and have a party on the other side that's worthy and able to debate those ideas and serve the American people. I don't think we have that right now. I think it's very fragmented, and they're in a big inter-party war.
If the roles were reversed and Republicans were in the minority, you said you would just continue to keep the government open, and there were a collection of Republican senators that went against their minority leaders back, apparently, and voted to end the government shutdown. Do you think that the same reaction would be warranted? Do you think the reaction is warranted at all towards Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer?
Well, I think Chuck Schumer's in a different category because he's led the Democrats down a path that I'm very much opposed to. But I think in general, those Democrats that were able to stand up and say open the government, I think that was a real exhibition of political courage. And if it happened on the other side, I don't think we'd have that. I think the common sense approach, certainly the people I meet on the street across Pennsylvania, across party, say, listen, let this government shutdown stuff. You guys are making fools of yourselves. So I think it's never going to make sense to shut down the government as a political negotiation. And I think the voters, the viewers right now can count on me to always say that, no matter who's in charge.
And so, one more? Yeah. Okay. And so, one of the reasons that so many Democrats withheld their support for reopening the government were these Affordable Care Act tax credits. In Pennsylvania, nearly 500,000 Pennsylvanians are on penny, and if the ACA tax credits aren't extended after December, which they're not currently poised to, they'll see their premium skyrocket, and enrollment is expected to fall by around 150,000 people. What is the Senate Republicans' plan to help those hundreds of thousands of people?
Republicans had always said, the president said, Majority Leader Thune said, we're willing to negotiate on how to treat those extensions, but we're not going to do it with a gun to our head of shutting down the government and holding it hostages. I'm worried about it. I'm worried about working families in Pennsylvania that are going to have their premiums go up. They're already living paycheck to paycheck. They can't afford that. So I do think we're going to need to do something. But I don't think just a blanket extension of the current subsidies makes sense. There's a number of people that are recipients of those subsidies who are very high income, that weren't initially supposed to be the beneficiaries of, and they got those benefits in COVID. I don't think high income people should receive those. There's evidence of a lot of fraud. So I think we need to take efforts to make sure that the actual beneficiaries are the people who are getting the premiums, not the insurance companies or fraudulent behavior. So I do think there's going to be some reforms needed. I do think there's going to be a good faith negotiation like Republicans have promised, but I don't think it should be a blanket extension of what was passed during COVID.
Oh, one more follow-up. Is that okay? And so as part of the negotiations for those 8 senators that voted with you guys, a promise was made to hold a vote by the end of the year for these tax credits. Yeah. Is a yes vote even in the cards? And if it is, House Speaker Mike Johnson said that it's not in the cards for him to hold a vote in the House. Are Senate Republicans going to work with House Republicans to try and get these tax credits extended?
Yeah. Well, what was promised in the Senate was there would be a vote in the first 2 weeks of December. So I think that there will be a vote in the first 2 weeks of December. My guess is there'll be a vote on a Democratic proposal, maybe on a Republican proposal. So a lot of work to be done. We've got a lot of work to do over the next month or so to get to that point. And as for the House, I can't speak to the House, but the one thing I will say is that I think there's been very good coordination between the House, the Senate, and the White House. One of the things you've noticed during this shutdown is that we've been very much aligned, wanting to get the government open so we could move forward. Our party's been very united, and I expect that'll be the case as we think about how to deal with the extensions of those subsidies from COVID.
Senator McCormick, thank you so much.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.